Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel Finding Joy in the Everyday. And today's Friday, and so it's Friday Book Club. And in the book club videos, I like to recommend books to you that have really helped me in my life and with various problems or issues that have cropped up, things that have made me feel healthier, things that have been quite useful. I'm quite into self-help books really, but and today is one of those. So today's book is called The Nordic Guide to Living 10 Years Longer by Dr Bertil Marklund. I will insert the book here just so you can all see which book it is, and its subtitle is 10 Easy Steps to Live a Healthier, Happier Life. I'm 63, and if I can live 10 years longer but live them feeling healthy and happy, then all good. So this book is written by a Swedish doctor who has over 20 years experience in treating patients, but he's also a researcher. And in the book, he decides to focus on how to boost health rather than focusing on illness and disease and symptoms. And so he's trying to shift from the negative to the positive. And he discovered that we are more in control of our health than we think. I read recently an article that said 75% of people who walk through the door to a doctor's surgery could do something about their health. It's not all genetics, hereditary, bad luck usually. A lot of the time we can do something to help ourselves. Now, when I read it was 75%, I thought that's really high. And it's almost like it's saying to us, you can be an advocate for your own health. We don't have to accept everything. We all have things wrong with us, every single one of us. I have. And it's about managing your health, and it's about finding ways to help you manage your health in a holistic way. So rather than letting something spiral and get out of control and then you need an operation, etc., try and sort it out initially. So I think most of us want a longer life, but one that's also healthy and happier. And this book embraces simple, small changes that most of us can do. It doesn't take a lot of money. It doesn't take a lot of effort. You can do these quite simply wherever you live, whatever time you've got. And I think when things are made simply, I think we're more likely to follow it through. We're more likely to use these ways if it's made simple. So I love this book. It's also not a very thick book, so you could get through that quite quickly. And it's one of those books that it's easy to read, but it's also easy to understand. So, this Dr. Marklund is maybe a doctor, but he puts it in simple, everyday language, which for most of us is what we need. So what kind of things does he talk about? I'll tell you what he talks about in this book, which is really important, and I've read a lot about this recently. He talks a lot about inflammation in the body. And there is a recent line of research that says many of our health issues are to do with inflammation in the body. And a lot of the illnesses and negative symptoms that we're getting are triggered by inflammation. So he does mention inflammation a lot in this book, which I found really useful because I want to learn more about inflammation. I don't know enough about it. So he talks about ways to protect yourself against inflammation, which, as I said, is becoming more and more known to doctors and to patients alike that it can have a negative effect on our health. So what else does he talk about? Movement. I think that we don't need to go to a gym. We don't need to run marathons. It's just about simple movement. As we get older, we have less energy. It's just how it is. I find it quite annoying, But we need to keep moving. We need to keep on the move. We need to find ways to exercise that help us. And it can just be simple walking. And I think most of us can find something in the way of movement that we actually enjoy. It could be just doing some chair exercises when you're watching TV. It could be putting the kettle on and doing some gentle squats while you're waiting for the kettle to boil. It doesn't have to be heavy impact. It doesn't have to take a long time. And, you know, he said things like movement does extend your life, and it also combats things like dementia, diabetes, and reduces inflammation and other illnesses that we can tend to get as we get older. He talks all about stress. Stress is the big one, isn't it? You know, about how stress affects our health. And so he gives us tips how to cope with stress, which again are very simple. Exercise, sleep, correct breathing, meditation. I'm a huge meditation fan. I will be doing a video on it because I'm passionate about it. It has changed my life, honestly. And you don't have to sit cross-legged on a mat chanting. You don't have to do that. But meditation is amazing. Big one for me, which I'm not great at, is sleep. We need to sleep well to allow our bodies to heal, our cells to regenerate. Why do I find it so difficult to sleep? I just don't know. I've always been a bit of a night owl, and I get into these bad habits, and then I don't get enough sleep, and I wake up and I feel dreadful and drained of energy, and then I say to myself, I'm going to go to bed early tonight. I'm going to get 8 hours sleep, and I end up not doing it. And it's just, I know that it's not good for health, and that is something I really, really have to work on. And if you have any good tips for sleep, I try everything. I try meditation, you know, I keep the room dark, I've got some lavender on the pillow, and yeah, I'm not great at getting a good night's sleep, but I'm going to keep trying, because too little sleep and too much sleep is not good for us. He also talks about the sun. I live in the UK, and last winter we had an awful winter. It was dark and grey, and it seemed to rain forever. And we don't get much vitamin D in conditions like that. And I do take a vitamin D supplement over the winter. I've done that for many years. I think it was my doctor that told me to do that. So vitamin C deficiency does differ depending where you live. But here in the UK, we don't get enough sun in our winter time, which is probably about October to March, so it's quite a long time. So, but getting enough sun, but not too much, obviously, not to burn, but getting some sun is great to replenish your vitamin D. Eat healthy is, you know, again, we all know this, but it can really protect against inflammation if we eat healthy. I try not to put too much pressure on myself, and I say to myself, well, if I eat 80% of the time healthy and 20% not so healthy, then it's going to take away the likelihood that I'm going to binge. If I really say to myself, I'm never eating chocolate again, I guarantee I will binge on chocolate that night as soon as I've said it. So I think it's all about a healthy balance, isn't it? It's about trying to get something that suits your lifestyle, but at the same time keeping healthy. And I think that's really important. He talks about drinking, not essentially alcohol. Saying, do we drink enough water? I have to hold my hand up and say I probably don't drink enough water. So, but there are so many positive effects for drinking enough water, because it provides this healthy environment for your body, and you know, things don't dry up, things don't shrivel. And you know what happens when you get a headache when you're dehydrated? what happens is your brain shrinks because it needs water. So if you've got a really bad headache, just sometimes drinking water is enough to take the headache off. And he even says things like tea and coffee have got a positive effect on health. They reduce the risk of diabetes and dementia and Parkinson's. And 1 cup of tea has the same amount of antioxidants as 2 apples, which is amazing. I love my tea. I love coffee too, but I'm British, so excuse me, I do like a cup of tea. He talks about mental health as well, about being an optimist rather than a pessimist, always thinking the glass is half full rather than half empty. He said, optimists create better times, pessimists wait for better times. That's a great quote. And I do think if we are distracted, if we are happy and joyful and we have gratitude for things, I do think that it makes us feel overall better and healthier. So I think that it's just a very mindful way of living that is beneficial to ourselves and to others and to our health. And he also talks about community, about building friendships and community. I think this is really important. I might do a separate video on this as well because I think it's so important. And as we get older, I think our friendship groups change and, become more important to stave off loneliness. So he said community is really, really good for health, and I think that's great because we need friends who boost us, who make us feel supportive, who are there for us when things are not great. And it's really hard when you're getting old if you are on your own. And so sometimes we have to seek out community. We have to find our tribe. We have to find new friends maybe. Maybe circumstances mean we've had to move areas and we don't live in the same place. But finding your tribe is so, so important, so important. And I think that has a beneficial effect on us. So, what do I think to this book? I think it's a great little book. I think it's one that we should... It's just like, it's so easy because they're easy tips. It's not too overwhelming. It kind of makes it reachable. I think if doctors say to us, you've got to do this and this, and it's just this long list, we end up thinking, oh, I just can't be bothered doing that. But this is a great book, and it's one that is easy to understand, it's easy to follow, it's really simple advice, but it's written by a doctor, so it's quite credible as well. So I would absolutely recommend this book. Have a look in your local library, or I will post the link below of this book. But it's definitely worth reading, and if it helps you live 10 years longer, healthier and happier, then I think it's worth it. And as I said, he's done a lot of research about this, and I think anything I can do to help my health is absolutely worth doing. My health is so important to me because I want to be here for my family, for my friends, for myself. I feel like I've got so much to do, and I need to be healthy in order to do things in my life. So that's the book I'd recommend this week on Friday Book Club. If you've got any recommendations, or if you've read this book, or if you want any more information, just comment below. I'd love to hear what you think. I'd love to hear your book recommendations. And until next time, enjoy reading, enjoy books, and I will see you next Friday for Friday Book Club. Thank you again.